The station's docking bay was crowded, but I didn't notice anyone else. My focus was entirely on the capsule that had just arrived. It had drifted into the hangar like a wounded comet, its surface scratched and pitted, lights flickering erratically. And in the center of the bay, struggling with something that shimmered and pulsed against her skin, was her, an alien woman unlike anything I'd ever seen. She was taller than me by at least a head, with sleek, iridescent skin that shifted between violet and deep sapphire depending on the light. Her eyes were large and golden, glinting with panic. She tugged frantically at a strange device wrapped around her forearm, something that hummed with energy and refused to budge. Sparks danced across it whenever she moved, and I realized that one wrong pull could fry her nervous system, or worse. "Please, it's stuck," she gasped, her voice a melodic hum that made the station's intercom vibrate faintly. I can't, take it off. It's not responding." I froze for a second, assessing the situation. I'd handled emergencies before, but this was beyond anything I'd trained for. Not only was it alien technology, but the woman herself seemed to be partially bonded to it somehow. Every movement she made caused pain, and yet the device continued to pulse like it had a life of its own. "Okay," I said carefully, stepping closer. "I think I can help. But I need you to stay still." She nodded quickly, her golden eyes wide with both fear and relief. I had never seen a device like this. It was organic in design, with a metal-like sheen that flowed over her skin as if it were alive. Tiny glyphs glowed across its surface in a language I couldn't read. The hum it emitted resonated with her own heartbeat, and the moment I touched it, I felt a twinge of vibration in my fingertips, almost as if it were responding to my presence. "Do you feel it?" she asked nervously. I nodded. "Yeah, it's alive. Not in a way I've ever experienced, but it's like it's aware." "Aware?" she exclaimed. It shouldn't be. This device was meant to be a containment unit, secure, simple, easy. How did it bond to me?" I frowned. "Containment unit?" She gave a shaky laugh. "For a life form. Something ancient. Something that was dangerous. And now it's refusing to release me." I swallowed. Dangerous? Bonded to her? And the device wouldn't come off? My mind raced through possibilities: genetic compatibility, neural sync, bioelectric resonance. None of it made sense, and yet I could feel the hum of energy against my chest. "Okay," I said finally. "Step back a little. Let me examine it closer. And don't panic, I've dealt with emergencies before." Her laugh was nervous, shaky, and filled with disbelief. You're human." I shrugged. "Yes. And right now, I think that's a good thing." As I crouched to inspect the device, I realized it was more than a simple clamp or brace. It was a living interface, adapting to her biology in real time. Threads of energy wrapped around her arm, digging in when she tried to remove it. Each tug sent a spark of pain across her muscles. It was reactive, defensive, and deeply intelligent. "I'm going to need to synchronize with it," I muttered. "I don't know how, but I think I can convince it to let go." She blinked. "Synchronize? Convince it?" I nodded. "I think it responds to intent. If I can project calm instead of panic, it might release." Her golden eyes narrowed. Do you mean meditate?" "Sort of," I admitted. "Just stay still, focus, and trust me." The next few minutes were tense. I placed my hands gently on the device, feeling the thrum of energy pulse beneath my fingers. It recoiled slightly at first, like a startled animal, but I remained steady enough for the first time in minutes. I focused all my attention, imagining the device loosening its grip, imagining the hum of energy shifting from resistance to cooperation. The alien woman shivered, not from fear, but from some internal response I couldn't identify. It's reacting," she whispered. "Yes," I said, voice steady. "But you have to remain calm. No sudden movements." I felt a pull, a tug at my own consciousness, a faint pressure like someone was trying to communicate. The device wasn't just reacting physically, it was probing me, testing me. Its pulse was synchronized with mine, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, the resistance began to ease. She exhaled sharply. It's loosening." "Almost there," I said. "Keep your arm steady. I've got this." With one final synchronized effort, the device shivered, hummed, and detached itself from her arm, lifting off as if it had never been part of her at all. It hovered for a second, then shot upward into the docking bay ceiling, locking itself into a containment chamber that had materialized out of nowhere. The alien woman collapsed onto the floor, gasping, golden eyes wide with a mix of relief and exhaustion. You did it," she said finally. I smiled wearily. "Yeah, we did it." That was only the beginning. As she regained her composure, she introduced herself properly, Lyratel, a researcher from a distant star system. The device, she explained, was not merely a tool, but a prison for a life form older than her species' history. It had been bonded to her for study purposes, but something in its programming had interpreted her survival instinct as a signal to never release. It wasn't supposed to happen this way, Lyratel said quietly. "But you saved me." I shook my head. "I didn't save you. I helped. You had the courage to stay calm while I figured it out." She smiled faintly, but her eyes remained wary. "I'm not out of danger yet. The containment protocols failed, something is trying to break through. I can feel it." My stomach dropped. "Break through? You mean the entity inside the device?" "Yes," she whispered. "And if it escapes?" She didn't finish. The thought alone was enough. We spent the next several hours working together. I learned how to stabilize the containment device while Lyratel interfaced with her ship's systems. The alien life form within the device pulsed intermittently, sending waves of energy that threatened to overwhelm the ship's delicate systems. I monitored the resonance, applying what little human intuition I had, while Lyratel adjusted parameters I barely understood. At one point, the entity pulsed violently, sending arcs of energy across the containment bay. I instinctively raised my hands, trying to absorb and disperse the energy. For a terrifying second, it felt as though the pulse had merged with my nervous system, flooding my mind with fragmented images of stars, battles, and civilizations I had never known. Lyratel grabbed my arm. "Steady. Focus on your own rhythm, not its pulse." I did, forcing my heart to match a calm cadence, forcing the energy to follow. Slowly, the pulses became weaker, and the containment device stabilized. Exhausted, we sank to the floor. Lyratel's golden eyes met mine, gratitude and something deeper reflected in them. I would have been trapped forever if you hadn't intervened." I shrugged. "Guess I'm better at emergencies than I thought." She chuckled, though it was faint. "You saved more than me. You might have saved countless worlds." I blinked at her. "Countless worlds? You're not exaggerating, are you?" Her eyes darkened with worry. "No exaggeration. The entity is ancient, intelligent, and dangerous. The containment failure could have catastrophic consequences if left unchecked." I swallowed. "So what now?" "We monitor it," she said. "Together. And we stay in contact. I don't know how your species handles threats like this, but I've learned that sometimes human intuition and alien protocol are both necessary." Over the next few days, I worked alongside her, learning about alien technology, containment ethics, and survival tactics on a scale I never imagined. The device, though stabilized, was unpredictable, and Lyratel's expertise was invaluable. And slowly, we began to understand each other, not just as allies, but as beings from different worlds who had survived a shared crisis. There was humor amidst the tension. Lyratel tried human foods and recoiled at spicy flavors. I tried to mimic her hand gestures and failed hilariously. We argued over scientific theories, laughed at the absurdity of life across the stars, and forged a bond born of survival and trust. But the danger never fully disappeared. Every now and then, the device pulsed, a reminder that the entity inside was waiting, aware, and patient. And I knew, as I watched Lyratel one night in the dim glow of the containment bay, that this was just the beginning. In the end, it wasn't about heroics or bravery. It was about presence, patience, and the willingness to act when someone else couldn't. I had faced an alien crisis I couldn't fully understand, worked with a species unlike my own, and survived. Together, we stabilized something older than memory, something that could have destroyed countless lives. She couldn't remove it herself, but together, we had. And in the vastness of the stars, I realized that sometimes, survival is less about strength and more about connection, about trust, empathy, and the courage to do the right thing when the stakes are incomprehensible. Lyratel smiled at me one last time before the ship departed, her golden eyes glinting with gratitude and something unspoken. "Until next time," she said. I nodded, watching her disappear into the stars, knowing that our paths would cross again. And if they did, I'd be ready. The galaxy was vast. But in moments like this, it felt smaller, intimate, and full of possibilities.